This is a public service announcement brought to you by Cardell Sims and the good folks at TMG Records. Check the forecast. I rain fact, that's truth precipitation. Give them time back or use it to build patience. Either or try to maneuver above basics. So when you touch down, you hover over complacent. Long story short, we made the time count. Incarceration couldn't keep our minds timed out. We just gave clout to the count times and grinded. Made our re-entry a journey out of confinement.
What would be one word to describe this journey?
Enriching.
Unapologeticness.
Elevating.
Resilience.
I say transformation.
The re-entry journey, the re-entry journey, the re-entry journey, the re-entry journey. All right, man, we are back with another episode of the re-entry journey. I am your host, Cardell Sims. You know, just like the intro says, we are going to make it. And before we go and get into our guest tonight, I just want to give a shout out to our sponsor, David Walker and I'm So clothing brand. I'm So stands for inspire, motivate, and support others. If you can see the shirt, there it is right there. You can go to I'mSoNow.com and order your shirts, hoodies, socks, and everything. It's just something that we live by every day. We want to inspire someone, we want to motivate someone, and we want to support others as well. So go to www.I'mSoNow.com and get you some I'm So gear, and let's be that. Tonight, our guest on the reentry journey has a journey that, you know, you might be living a high right now, and then things happen in life, and then you find yourself in situations that you never thought you'll find yourself in, and then you got to figure out how you're going to bounce back. And it's not as easy as you think. A person has a journey that, you know, a lot of our guests that come on, including myself, have traveled down this path of going to and being incarcerated, let's say being incarcerated, and then have to figure out how we're going to bounce back from that incarceration. So our guest tonight does a lot of work in the reentry, goes back inside and puts that work in. Basically, that's what it is. He puts that work in, and he's here to share his story with us tonight on the reentry journey. So I'd like to introduce our guest for tonight's show, Mr. Dean Lloyd. How you doing tonight, man? Welcome to the reentry journey.
G'day,
How are you?
Cardell. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. Oh, I forgot that I didn't meant to tell him that you are our first international guest.
Ooh, that's exciting. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. So yeah, no,
First
thank you.
international guest.
And thanks for the lovely introduction. I really appreciate it. And I suppose, you know, where do I start and what do I say? I've got one story. It's mine, and I can't tell anybody else's story. And the best place to start is at the beginning. So, yeah, I come up pretty easy in my life. You know, it's not lost on me that I'm white and I'm privileged and the world's been designed for me. However, my dad didn't come up like I did. He come up tough. You know, he was the man of the house when he was 12, and he decided to give me everything that he never got. So I was afforded that, and I'm grateful for that always. You know, and I had my dad was a real estate agent in the 80s. So, he'd done well for himself. And I didn't really want for anything probably apart from attention, and a bit more attention and love. And I was quite good at sports at school. I was just hated school. Terrible. No interest in learning whatsoever. But I was very good at sports.
What sports did you play? What sports was you good in?
So swimming, running, soccer, football, I don't know what you call that. And then NRL, which is rugby league. I'm not sure if you're across that one.
Rugby, yeah, I done seen a few matches.
Yeah. So I played that. I got to play that at a relatively higher level, representing sort of the area that I was from, I suppose. And it was there, essentially, like I said, I was really good at surfing too. Actually, I always forget that. It's just like second nature now. I'm a surfer. Predominantly, when someone asks me who I am, I'm a surfer. I've got like salt water in my veins. Like, I'm in the ocean. That heals my soul. The ocean heals my soul, and it's a special place that I can go and regenerate. So it's one of the things I've learned over time. But yeah, so essentially, essentially that's how it was at school. I got to stay at school mainly because I was captain of the football team, blah, 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 all that stuff. And then sort of towards the end of the school, like I was starting to, get into, I was smoking a lot of pot all the way through school, or dope, whatever there might be a few words lost in translation here, being the international guest.
Right.
So it was around 18, I discovered heroin. And what happened was I snapped my cruciate ligament playing rugby league.
Okay.
And that was, at that stage, it was a 12 months, like a full year recovery process. And in that, I always hate to label it like that, but, I fell in with a different crowd, let's say. I fell in with a crowd of people that were doing, partying and going out. And I actively sought out heroin. Like I was curious about a lot of things, and I was just exploring, experimenting, taking a lot of, acid, trips, those sorts of mind expanding things. And then finally I discovered heroin, and there was an epidemic at that stage in Australia. Like you had dealers fighting over customers in the street. That's how bad it was at some stage. It was, I fell into that, and it was not slow. I think it was probably about 8 years in the end, but in that I was lucky enough to sort of do a geographical and go and travel Europe to try and stop using heroin. And the furthest, I ended up in Amsterdam of all places.
Wow. Yeah, out of all places in Amsterdam.
Yeah. And in essence, the longest place I've ever traveled, or the longest period of travel I've ever done to score dope is from London to Sydney. I got on a plane because I wanted dope back in Sydney. And I left a fiance. Like I proposed to this childhood sweetheart, and we're touring, Europe, and we're going to get on and get married and blah, blah, blah. And I left her with it and went back to Sydney and decided that I wanted to be a heroin addict. And it was close to my 23rd birthday at that stage. And then I went into my first treatment, like rehab and all that sort of stuff. And I bounced in and out of these treatment facilities for a while. It was about 18 months, sort of in and out. And then I ended up south of Sydney in a treatment centre down there, and I met my first wife in rehab.
Right.
So if you might hear it said often, guys. So if you want to know and the evidence of why people don't get married to people they meet in rehab, here's a story. So I met this woman in that treatment centre. She was about 8 years older than me, and she was like, it's hard to explain, Looney Tunes, that character that just swirls around. I don't know what, it's a Tasmanian devil. That's what I find over here. Yeah. So that's what she was like. She was just like a whirlwind, and I was so attracted to that. I was like, sign me fucking up. Give me some of that stuff.
Right.
Willing participant. And then, things were going okay in the centre. And then we left because she had a house we could go and move into, blah, blah, blah. And in the end, ultimately got arrested for doing an armed robbery. I got away with a lot of stuff. It was my first offence, armed robbery, to support a heroin habit that I run into a local corner store, desperate, on Boxing Day. There was nothing open. Like 20 years ago, there was nothing open in Australia on Boxing Day. So I drove up in my car, no mask, no nothing, just give me some money. I was that desperate,
Wow.
So I done...
From the addiction.
Yeah, from the addiction to heroin. So desperate that I think I got 120. So I didn't even get enough money to get on to buy dope, and I got sentenced to 4 years for that, for like $127 robbing a corner store.
Oh wow!
And I was lucky to get that lesser sentence. Privilege again, I'm aware. So I do, I go to jail my first. So it was 1999. 2000, the millennium. I got pinched. I got arrested on 28th of December. And by the time I made my way from where I was up into like the main jail, I got there on New Year's Eve, and I was on a dose of methadone that I hadn't been given for 4 days. So I was like sick, really sick.
Right.
Yeah. So I was sick, and like I was in this cell with this other guy, and no idea, no concept of prison whatsoever, just because I'd never had any interaction with it as a child. No one I knew had gone to prison, that sort of stuff. So I'm in there, I'm sick as. Anyway, about 8 o'clock at night on New Year's Eve, they come around, they give me like 8 Valium. I was like, oh, yeah, sweet. And then they give me my full dose of methadone. I was like passed out. The guy I was in the cell with, I wake up the next day, he's like, I don't know how you were slept. Like the whole place was on fire.
Oh,
Everything was on fire. Like because it was New Year's Eve and guys were just going crazy. So I don't know what it's like in prison. So there's a reception part at in the prisons here, and they have a perspex window, so it's a dry cell. So they make sure you're not going to commit suicide or go into a fit or anything because of the drug withdrawals. So I had a plastic screen on the front of my cell that you could just see in all the time, a concrete bed and a blanket. And I'm like, what the fuck? I thought that was it. I thought that was just, but I was doing like 20 years. Like, that's it. I'm like, this is like prison. So in essence, if you look at it like that, like if I would have done 2 weeks in prison, there's no way I would ever have wanted to go, or like not wanted to, but like I would have been scared of going back. I would have been like, fuck, I'm not going to do anything wrong because I don't want to go back to that place. Because what happened was once I circled through that first like intake process, I got put in a cell down in a pod. They call them pods. There's about 30 guys.
You see, 30,
and
the pod's got 30 guys?
Yeah.
That's
and
it?
we're all got our own cells. It's pretty nice compared to fucking what I've seen in the States, put it that way. We've got your own shower in your cell. The only issue is who gets the bed with the toilet next to it. That's the, however, so what happened was I've gone out into the yard for the first day in the yard. I'm sitting next to my cellmate, about 3 or 4 people down. There's this other guy. Then this, like, Debo from, like,
Friday.
On Friday.
Yeah, Friday.
This guy, the Pacific Islander guy. So I was 2 out, like cellmates with a Pacific Islander guy as well. So this guy comes walking up to this other guy, pulls like a cricket stump. You know what cricket is?
Yeah.
Pulls a cricket stump out the back of his shirt and just like smashes this guy across the head.
Oh,
this is my first experience of being in the yard. First of
about that,
like 4 people away from
that big. They're probably about that long.
Yeah, probably about a meter high and about that.
Yeah, but
so he's just gone out like that and just smashed this guy across the face.
Oh.
And then they proceed. About 10 guys just proceeded to kick him around the yard as he's like,
And what was the
this is my first experience.
What was the thoughts when
first experience of the yard?
Experience of the yard. What was going through your mind?
Stomping on him. This went on for about half an hour. No guards come, nothing. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, where is this? And anyway, he's lying in the middle of the yard. Like in the end, like it looks like he's KO'd. All of them disperse. He gets up and he runs to the gate. Like runs. It's probably about 150 meters to the gate where we go back in the chute. And it's like a little cage, but one door's open, the other one on the other side. So he's run back in there, starts calling for the guards, banging on the gate, going, They get in there and they just start jumping on him again. So obviously what happens, the guards come, we all get locked down. I'm going back into a cell with one of these two.
Oh, man.
I'm like, fuck this, and I was a like skinny fucking heroin addict. There was nothing of me. And I get back in there, I said, oh, look, fuck, do I ask? What do I say? Do I do anything? Like, fucking, I'm like, I said, oh, fuck, what was all that about? He said, oh, don't worry, mate. If you keep, keep your head down, you won't have no fucking dramas.
Right.
And lo and behold, through my whole sentence, I remained part of that Islander, Pacific Islander gang of people, crew of people, and it worked out really well for me. The longer time I'd done, the more comfortable I come, the more dehumanized I become, and I was okay in prison. Everything was there. I was smoking dope every day. I was shooting dope whenever I was smoking marijuana every day.
Mm-hmm.
I was, and then, yeah, sorry, I've got off on a tangent now. So that was the first bit. But what happened was when we got sentenced, I proposed to my partner
Right.
because we got sentenced. We come back from court in the back of a truck. She's in the back. We can hear each other talking. I proposed to her on the back of that escort van.
Uh-huh.
She said yes. Yeah, and then we, that ensued like a methadone baby, and like when we got out, we got married. She had a baby that was addicted from birth. I'm
Right.
18 years old now, that still face those traumas and tribulations that we visited upon that child. So that's sort of my prison experience. I got out and I was angry as all sorts, and
So
really.
getting out, so doing the prison time and then getting out, being angry. What was your vision for yourself of getting out once? I mean, as you was getting out of prison, what did you see?
I
I
didn't have. So I had 2 years of parole, community correction order, supervision in the community. And at that stage, I didn't know how angry I was until I got out. That's the thing. I didn't think I was angry, but I got out. So what I discovered about prison, like being in prison, is, it's a micro community.
Right.
So there's rules, regulations, and about how you behave, and sort of honor amongst thieves and all that sort of bullshit. But prison's full of scared little boys and desperate people. It's just the way it is. I believe honestly that prison's
trying to save face.
People's filled with desperate people. So desperate people do desperate things. So
Right.
why do they do these desperate things, which I'll get to and around that later? But so it's full of desperate people, and essentially it's who's going to save face. Like what happens for me in prison is once that cell door gets shut, I can sit down and relax if I'm on my own in the cell by myself. But as soon as that door swings in the morning, there's a coat of armor that you have to have on because you never know what's going down. Never. You know what?
Right.
You know too well about that. Like when that door swings, you could just be like, fuck. You know that someone across the way, like it's going down.
Yeah.
So just that violence.
Today.
Yeah. And you can feel it sometimes. Just the insanity. Another story is like I've seen two guys fight over a cigarette paper. And it was a Islander guy and another guy, and they were fighting. The fight couldn't be finished. Like one couldn't get over the top of the other. So they fight in the shower blocks over here. So you go shouts because no one can see. Yeah. So we're up in the shower blocks. There's this guy washing his hair. He's having a shower. Everyone's fighting and mingling around. And he was sort of, he was higher up in the hierarchy.
Yeah.
So they couldn't finish this fight. He's got shampoo in his hair. Like, just walks out nothing on with his thongs, KOs the other dude, then turns around to his Pacific Islander friend and just goes bang, 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 bang. Lays him down. He goes, "Don't bring shame upon our family. If you pick a fight, make sure you can finish it."
Oh, man.
I was back in the shower, finishing shit, washing his hair. Like, these are normal things in prison.
Right, but that's normal. Like, it's just another day.
It's just standard every day.
Right.
So the transition out of that violence, and violence is a solution in prison. I can punch on with somebody in prison.
Yeah, most definitely.
And then we shake hands and it's over. It's done. You know what I mean? Over and above, like out here, it's not a solution. So what I believe happens is everyone's given a hammer while they're in prison. So it's all a nail. Everyone just goes bang, bang, bang. One solution. But when in that reintegration, it's like, wait a minute, let's turn this around. Oh, there's a claw on the end of this hammer. There's two solutions. Let's rip that nail out. We don't need to bash it anymore. Well, let's throw it away. So once we start to present options, not chances, options to people, then they can get on and get out. And that's what happened for me. So essentially, I finished my 2 years of parole, got married, had a methadone baby. And at 18 months, that child, I decided to leave the mother because we were still running around crazy. And I thought, okay, I can do this to myself. but I can't do this to my kid. Like, they didn't ask for this. They didn't sign up for any of this shit. So I decided to leave the mother, took the kid with me, and went and steadied out my life at my parents. Another privileged opportunity that I'm aware of. So I got my life together in my basement in my parents' basement as a single parent. And then, you know, started to get into recovery, 12 steps, all of that sort of stuff. I'd been in that because I'd been to rehab earlier on.
Yeah.
So as I start to do that, I got arrested on the last day of my parole.
Oh.
The very last day. And it was well, actually, what happened was the mother of the child got caught stealing nappies for the baby.
Mm-hmm.
I took the charge. So she would have gone away.
Right.
Mainly because of all the other things she'd done prior to stealing the nappies more than anything. So I took that charge. I got thrown into a program called Merit, Magistrates Early Referral into Treatment. And it was a bit of a bespokely designed program around needs and individual needs. So I've done some counselling, and it was a catalyst for me to get out.
Right.
And I was ready. The timing was right, if you know what I mean. Like, there was always opportunity for me, but I just wasn't ready. So I took that opportunity with both hands, and I went into the family business, which was real estate.
Okay.
I had a decade-long real estate career, highly successful. Got remarried, 2 more kids, had a midlife crisis, some say. And, you know, I built my thing up. I had a property portfolio, I had a share portfolio, I had 2 brand new cars in the driveway. Like, I was flying. If you looked at my life, you would have gone, fuck, I'll have that. Yeah, give me some of that for sure. Anyone and everyone would have. Living in the suburbs, white picket fence, smoking hot wife, 2 kids, you know, 3 or 4 properties, shares. I was, you know, living large. I proceeded to put all of that in my arm at a relapse.
Ooh. And what led to, in your opinion, what led to the relapse?
There was a variety of things. I don't think it's ever one thing. It was just, those small incremental turns away from, like, oh, I'm this way and then that way and then all of a sudden that way. It's like, how did I get over here? And I had a shitload of money.
Right.
Like, I wasn't jumping through people's windows. I wasn't running into places with guns. I was just going to the bank and getting some more money.
That's
and it didn't seem to be a problem at that stage because I had a shitload of fucking money. Yeah. It wasn't a problem. The money, you know, and then it got to the end, a suicide attempt because I just couldn't get clean again. And I realized everything that I fucking squandered. And my wife fucking stuck by me. She stuck by me then. So, and she's a fucking good lady too. So then I got clean again, got back together, you know, on that journey again. And then, you know, I decided to go into the community services sector. I was like, I can't do the real estate. Like, I want to go and give back somewhere. I know there's a problem over here. And I went in with the idea that I wanted to write a program for people being released from prison. That was my goal. And I thought, the way I'll get in is through the real estate, because I've got a background in real estate, blah, blah, blah. And it was here that I faced my first discrimination, mainly because I've been working with my dad. I was able to get a real estate license, everything, 10 years after my charge. So it was here when I went into the community services sector, they started asking for records checks and blah, blah, blah. And so I was like, oh, fuck. And essentially I got a gig in a community housing provider because they just needed someone to start the next day. And I was like, yeah, sweet. I'm the guy.
They need somebody to go
and just grab that opportunity with both hands and never look back. And then realized I needed to do a little bit more training. So I went and done a diploma of community services. I've got a graduate certificate in Gestalt therapy. There's something else. I can't even remember what else. But so they just to, solidify and have like a bit of experience and show people that I was, willing, keen, and able, and understand a bit better the landscape. And then I worked there for a couple of years, and then I got my first job that required me to have a criminal record. So it was a leaving custody mental health peer support worker. So I worked in that. It was a harm minimization model, and I worked in a rehab that was a men's treatment facility that was abstinence based, and we would take guys directly from prison into that. There was only 8 beds though.
Okay.
It's probably one of the better programs that I've ever experienced. So what happens there is they have a Tuesday night. They cook a spaghetti. So the people in there, residents, they cook spaghetti bolognese, and everybody that's been there before, as long as they have 30 days sobriety, they're welcome.
Okay.
So on a Tuesday night, they have a big meeting. There might be 30 people. There might be 5 people. It's usually around 30, but they all come back and they display, I've been out here for 12 years. I drive trains and I got this job. So there's evidence that, oh, wait a minute. This guy, I know him from jail. He was a lunatic. Wow, look at him now. So there's evidence of hope.
Right.
The most important ingredient, I believe. So there, you worked in those things and blah, blah, blah. Then I started to get and meet people, academics. This is like 40 odd years old, and I have a thirst for knowledge all of a sudden. It's like, fuck,
Right.
I want to go to school now.
Yeah, you had to go to school now.
And I started becoming friends with professors, lecturers, and all of this sort of stuff. And then I started working in another organisation, Community Restorative Centre, and I was able to write a program for men getting out of prison under the ruse of employment. It was an employment pathways program for people out of prison.
Okay.
And what happened with that is I had 80 people come through that. And what I discovered is 78 of those people hadn't been past, I don't know what the equivalent. So, the first year of high school?
Yeah.
78 people in that group hadn't gone past the first year of high school.
Okay.
So when I present that to corrections, you know what they say? Education. We need to educate these guys.
Education, yeah. We need education, yeah.
I was like, no, you got it all fucking wrong. We don't need to educate them. We need to understand why, at that point in time, these families were not resourced enough to keep their kids in school. Essentially, otherwise, fuck, what are we doing? We're just banned. They've had opportunity to go to school. They've had opportunity to be educated. That's failed. Why has that failed? Let's unpack that. Because my honest belief is, and do you understand the trauma brain? So what happens with your brain when you're in fight, flight, freeze? So while people are being punished and traumatized, it's different over there because of the length of sentences, I believe. But while people are being punished and traumatized, they can't learn because their brain switched off.
Right.
So this is the conclusion I come to is I don't need to negotiate with prison anymore. You just do your job, prison. But what prison's really good at is getting you, me, and other, do-gooders around the world together to stand outside and go, prison, you're fucked. You do a terrible job and you're hopeless. Where does the conversation go? If I was standing at your workplace saying that to you, where would our conversation go? Why would I want to talk to you? If I come to you and said, hey, if you had $1 billion business and I come to you and I said, hey, I've got a fucking fantastic idea. In 6 months, we'll halve your business, and in 12, you'll have none. You're like, wait a minute. How is that fantastic?
Right.
So how can we get people to close $1 billion business? You don't. You can't. It will never happen. But we can render it obsolete because the pipeline of recidivism and the entry, we have control over.
Right.
That's what I can control. I can't control, I don't know if you've ever tried to negotiate something with a prison. It's like, fuck, no. So that's what I've learned. Right. And now I am, in learning that, I've gone, okay, well, where can I go to work to make that impact? to get people and kids and resource communities so they can keep their kids in school, or stop people going back. How can we stop people going? Because what I've discovered, through ultimately facing that discrimination. So what happened as well was through the work I was doing, people were saying, "Oh, we want you to come and work in this section of the jail," and it was the bit that I got released from. Okay. So it was a re-entry program. Like, it was designed. There was only like 8 or 9. Like, it was similar again. There was smaller, limited space and access, so not high volume in numbers, which I don't believe you can do that at that point. But there was so they asked me to come back and work there. Or the guy that was running it said, "Oh, apply for this job." So we correct. I'm thinking, I'm green at this stage. I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to change it from the inside. Boom, yeah, let's go. Fucking oath. And it disclosed everything from the get-go. I get an email, "You've been successful." Woo, yes. Get a phone call 10 minutes later. What was it? "When I put your name into the system, you come up as an unsatisfactory person."
Oh, wow.
I was like, what the fuck does that mean?
What does it mean?
Where do I go with that?
Unsatisfactory.
So,
I can report card.
So, yeah. So that kicked off a 3-year fight at the Human Rights Commission with Corrective Services, New South Wales.
Okay.
Because I took it all the way. So I just, that's beyond my pay grade. Here's the phone number. That's beyond my pay grade. I went all the way to the commissioner. I went and had an appointment with the commissioner. "Oh, sorry, it's an oversight. Obviously, you're a good person." So what it said on their website at that stage was, so the role of prison is to keep community safe, not in question. And we actively participate in rehabilitating and reintegrating people so they can become productive members of society. Like, hey, that's me. I'm over here. I'm that fucking guy.
Right.
Do you not believe in what's written on your website?
Right.
Because when I went and met with the commissioner, she said, "Oh, well, yeah, first instance, if you got a record, we just knocked you back." So where does it fucking say that? Where does it say that in the fine print that I need to do X to get Z? She said, "Oh, you can appeal it." I said, "Yeah, but what happened was the job was here, like in January. I go through all these appeal processes. It takes till March. The role's filled." I said, "That's a disadvantage, don't you think?" Yeah. "Oh, yeah. Anyway, so in the end, I got them to change their policies and procedures. That was so human rights can't make legal and binding decisions. They can make recommendations." Okay. So I got the recommendation in my favour that they do this. And then what they said was, "Oh, it was a clerical error. Sorry. What job do you want to do?" I said, "Look, in all honesty, I've dodged a bullet." And at this stage, I was writing the employment. So I had an email chain of work with all the people and an email chain of the Human Rights Commission, all correction services people, the same. It was like surreal at the time. So and I said, like, to be honest, I feel like I've dodged a bullet and I wouldn't want to work for anybody that's treated me like from the outset. No, thank you. Blah, blah, blah. So that was closed. And then I went on and wrote the employment program. And then that was a pilot project. And, I had a bit of personal issues go on at that stage. Grandfather died. A lot of my daughter that was coming up, she was running away from home. The first one, the oldest, that was the methadone baby. So there was a lot of so I got out of that job just because. So they were very forward thinking around what's it like, lived experience and pushing me forward and putting me to speak publicly, lived experience, the whole bit.
Right.
But there was no movement into management, which that's where we need certain people like you and I. We need to get into those decision-making positions to impact on whatever. As well, like, we're really welcome at Coalface, but over and above that, it's a bit. So anyway, I got out of that. and moped around a bit and was just really disillusioned. I was speaking at a few like conferences, like, you know, Society of Criminology, Reintegration Puzzle, International Criminal Justice Conference in Melbourne. So I was doing sort of the rounds there. And what I had realised is, so in the Employment Pathways program, it was only doing half the job. We're training the individuals being released how to behave appropriately accordingly in the workplace. However, we weren't training the businesses. So, oh, there's a niche there. And through my talking and speaking engagements, I thought I'll get a consultancy going and I'll start to consult the businesses. So what I would say to a business is, okay, what's your highest turnover role? How many did you turn over last year? Some like larger organisations, 5 times in 1 year, 20,000 a pop. So that's 100 a year. Right. For the bigger ones, you know what I mean? I was like, what if so when I got in front of a decision maker, I was like, what if I could get you an individual to fill that position? But what happens is I'll manage and facilitate that. And of that 100,000, how much will you give me? If I can save you that, how much will you give me? And what we'll do is any issues you call me, you don't front them, and I'll train your staff. So that's part, you get 12 months of me.
Right.
How much of the 100 are you going to give me if I can save? So think about that. Okay. So yeah, blah, blah, we go, yeah, okay. And explain, okay. So what we need to do is for the 12 months, you're going to get a long-term loyal employee. And I give them all the evidence because there's plenty of evidence to suggest, you know, what happens if you employ someone on the criminal record, you get a long-term loyal employee. I said, but what we need is in that 12 months, you need to identify or get them to self-identify what part and avenue in the business they want to go to. Because in 12 months, you're going to promote this guy. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get you another one. And then in 3 years' time, I'm going to get you another one. And that third year, I'm obsolete. You don't need me anymore because you've got a pathway and an avenue of people coming through. So $300,000, how much are you going to give me?
Right.
And then I'm going to know. Okay, so look, okay, if you don't want to do it, right, what's going to happen? What's the alternative? When you're at work, toiling away, and this guy has been excluded from everything in the community and access to all of these employments and housing, he's going to come and jump through your window and rob you. Which one do you want? That would be my ultimatum at the end as I'm like walking out the door. Do you want this guy to come and jump through your window and rob you? I said, it might not be you, but it might be your mum, it might be your sister. He's going to rob somebody in the community and he's coming back to your community. What do you want to do? It's a no fucking brainer, really, isn't it? Like once you get in front of people that are making decisions, they're just like, fuck, this makes so much sense, mate. It's not hard for them to understand it.
Right.
So yeah, no, the thing that I say there is, you know, employ somebody with a criminal record, make the world a safer place.
And
so yeah, that's
and get a long time worker on top of that.
Yeah, which they resilient, resourceful, like all these buzzwords that they're all talking about in these employment spaces. Like I've never met a more resourceful group of people. Never. Like MacGyver shit. You would have experienced in jail. Like the shit that people come up with and do in jail. It's like, are you MacGyver?
Yeah, like, come up with. I done seen
lighting a cigarette off too, and
man,
wow,
it's crazy. Wow.
Yeah, so you know, once you explain it and you get in front of like I said, decision makers in organisations like that, it's an easy sell, really. COVID hit. Yeah. So I had all these things lined up for 2020. Bang, COVID hits. So there's my pipeline of access to individual. I can't go into prison. I can't. So I'm not talking about you got a job on Thursday and Dave's getting out on Friday. There you go. Like I'm triaging these individuals. Right. Can you work for one? Like where are you going home to a house where they're selling crack or whatever's going on? Or are you going home to a stable environment where you can go to work from? Because it's like, I don't know if you've ever tried to go work from a park bench, but it's impossible. Like it's just not happening. So just those things. And So yeah, then I was the last couple of years been fortunate enough to work for Aboriginal community controlled organisation, which is a real honour and privilege over here as a white person. And that opened my eyes up to a whole, my privileged eyes up to what I find often is the miss in this space is you have people that don't even know. So they come in, do-gooders come in at this level thinking, oh, we just got to get them a house and like, they'll be sweet. Whereas the issues that these people have are like here, these people don't even know about these issues. Can't cook, never all of this sort of stuff. So, that's something that's become evidently aware is there needs to be, a blend of lived experience, I believe, and academic. Like, division is the enemy here. If we're arguing amongst each other, they are winning 100%.
Right. Exactly.
100%. And, as a friend of both of us, a prison's a one size fucks all solution. Look, it's a best practice model. Like, how is the punitive model that we have best practice? Essentially punishing people that need help. Like, in Australia can get locked up at 10. We've actually got so there's a campaign to raise the age at the moment. And essentially, they're relatively First Nations people that are getting locked up at that age.
Crazy. At 10 years old, they ain't doing no faking over here in Australia.
I think it's the lowest in the world.
Man.
And not even only in like the developed world, like in the world. So the campaign has been to raise it to 12.
And that's still low.
And the government won't even fucking come to the party.
Oh wow.
Just the other day, I think we had 2 10-year-olds locked up in like the Northern Territory. I know there was one. And these are in adult prisons they're putting them. Not like
crazy.
Juvenile. Yeah, like not to mix with adults, but like segregated.
Yeah.
That's insane.
That is
we're
insane.
Punishing children that need help.
Yeah, most definitely.
How, and I'm at that point. So what happened for me with that fight at the Human Rights Commission? So I've gone from prison reform, prison abolition. It's a hard sell. People don't want to hear about it. Like, it scares the shit out of general society. Abolition. I'm all for it. Don't get me wrong. However, obsolete. Like, I don't even know if that's a word, but when we tell people and explain it to, like, essentially abolition, when we explain it to them, like, it's obsolete. Prison is barbaric, violent, antiquated, and obsolete as a best practice model.
Right. Yeah.
So what do we do? Where do we go from that? And like I said, well, we render it. I think it's my responsibility, and whether other people are on board or not, to start to render that, like to render it obsolete. Like we need to put. It's not, and like that's where I've stopped fighting with prison, like because that's a fucking hard fight. So that's what I mean. What can I control? I control the individuals in community. How can I help them? I can remove the barriers, the stigma that people face and get from being labeled.
Right.
Let's change the language, other words. When we use other words, the stories we tell and the language we use has great significance. Self-talk, all of that sort of stuff, how we see ourselves. And so being labeled is so limiting. To be released from prison in Australia, you need to be assessed as a risk. So they assess you as a risk. What risk is he to the community? So you're being, everyone and everywhere you go when you're released from prison sees you as dangerous. Right. So how does that impact on the individual? Over and above a conversation that could take place is, hey, Cardell, what qualities do you have? And you're going back to such and such community. Like, where could you contribute there? What would you want to do to contribute to make your community better?
Mm.
That's a fucking different conversation.
Yeah, that's a totally different conversation.
That's a strengths-based, solutions-focused conversation.
Mm.
What we do now in the punitive model is risk and the reduction of capacity. So when you reduce someone's capacity, like, I don't know what prison was like for you, but it's such a dehumanizing process to expect people to get out and just go, yeah, I can function as a human being again. It's like, fuck, no. What'd you say, mate? You talking to me? Like, some guy looks at you strange in a fucking line and you're going to cave his head in.
Yeah, right.
And it's
in the workplace too.
Anywhere. Because that's the solution that we have and have been given as a result of being in prison. Violence is the answer.
Right.
In prison it is, as far as I'm concerned. I don't know. It might be different in the prisons that you're in and in America, but not from what I've seen.
Yeah, that's the answer in prison. Violence is the answer in prison.
So that's the other insanity. Yeah. And it's solved when you point, like, once you've done it, you're done.
Done. Right.
Over here, that's what it's like. I don't know what it's like over there, but that's the answer. And, you know, when we look at like that release and the perpetual punishment that happens. So because I've only been to prison once, what I've realized is the discrimination and barriers that I face into employment are perpetual. Still today, if I apply for a job, they want a criminal records check. It's 20 years old. It's very short, but it doesn't look good.
Right.
Like my charge, you know what I mean? So why is a judge giving me a 4-year prison sentence when you're still 20 years later judging me of a mistake that I made and a poor decision out of desperation? Why are you judging me off that? When you judge me off my past, you don't get to experience the value of me now.
Oh, can you repeat that? I like that. Can you repeat
when
that?
you judge me off my past, you don't get to experience the value of me now. So that's what is missing. That's, you know, I think you have more people released every week in the States than we do yearly. But in Australia, 40,000 people are released annually in and out of prison, right? 40,000.
40,000?
40. Oh, no, sorry, 18,000. 18, sorry.
Okay, 18,000.
So in that 40,000 is the entire population, but 18,000 to have access to that 18,000 as employee, like obviously they're not all going to need as much help as each other. However, to be able to access that cohort as a valuable workforce, well, that's what society's missing out on. And ultimately it goes back to that prison is a one size fucks all solution. Right. And the punitive model can only ever end up in mass incarceration. Look, that's the only, because it's just self-perpetuating. Look, it's like that snowball. It's just getting bigger and bigger because, you know, I laughed when Donald Trump was talking about bringing all the jobs back to the States. It's like, the issue is, mate, like 1 in 5 people's got a felony charge and they can't do the work that you want them to.
Exactly. Right.
So yeah, it's that's the universal thing that I think, you know, when we come together in situations and positions like this, that we can start to talk about what are the barriers that people face? How can we get around those barriers? So in one of the states just here recently, they've made a law. I honestly and wholeheartedly believe we need less laws and less lawyers, but that's and less fucking criminologists, because they've given us all these labels. It's their fault.
Right.
Like people don't have criminogenic needs. You know that, right? We are human. People don't have criminogenic needs.
Okay. Right.
So that's a criminologist terminology. We are human and we have the innate need to be treated humanely.
Right.
That's it. Like we don't have a criminogenic, like that's a word and thing that's been made up from criminologists. And I used to work for a criminologist, so I've had these conversations, and most of the academics that I've come across in the past years, they're criminologists. So it's just that responsibility of like, what are you saying here, and how are you saying it, and how are you perpetuating the punitive model with the language that you use?
Mm-hmm.
When we stop labeling people, we stop stigmatizing them, and we give them opportunity. We don't need chances. We need opportunities. A chance is like, oh, fuck, well, you're too late for that one, mate. We need an opportunity for people to understand who we are and to understand how others are and how to bring that together. And what's happened, I think, in COVID over here, especially, and what I witnessed is at the very beginning, we went back to community. We went back to looking out for the neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
We were all indoors. There was a feeling of that for a little while here. And essentially, that's what I see. Once we start to increase the capacity and give the power back to certain communities or certain powers back to them to address those needs, because it's a fact. If you're my neighbor and I know you and I talk to you, I'm less likely to rob you.
Exactly.
So, Niels Christie, I think in 1974 it was, suggested that was the erosion that happened in that period of time, is those powers were outsourced to councils and governments. Whereas previously, if something happened in the community, it's like, oh, hey, Dean, I seen Cardell. He jumped through your back. I seen him jump over your back fence the other day. Is anything missing? Like, no, everything's sweet. Yeah, okay. Anyway, so I go, hey, Cardell, someone said you jumped over my back fence. What's going on there, mate? And you're like, oh, D, look, fuck, I was really hungry. I knew you had a bread and I knew you went home. I was like, mate, just knock on the front door. You're welcome. What I've got's yours. You're welcome to it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't come through the back fence.
Right.
You don't have to. And that's community, yeah? Looking after each
other.
other.
Community looking
if you fall and I pick you up.
Right.
There was people cooking food and dropping it on their neighbours' doors because they couldn't go out because they were sick. That's what happened here.
Yeah.
I don't know if it happened where you guys are, but that was a really grassroots.
Yeah, that was the sense of it
essentially
over here too.
Yeah, essentially I look at that. Okay, so this is Mother Nature, the globe, whatever it is, doing for us what we can't do for ourselves. So in a society that's driven by convenience, and capitalism, sorry. So they're the most two addictive things I've ever known.
Right.
Name me one product that has been made to make your life less convenient in your history of your life. Nothing.
My life more or less convenient.
So no one makes something that's going to make your life less convenient. It's just who's buying it. It's just not it's not a train of thought. Like I can see you sort of going, wait, what do you mean? Like it's not a train of thought that you have. However, through our drive of capitalism and convenience, what have we got? We just kick back. It's someone else's responsibility. Someone else will take care of it. So what allows me to walk past that homeless guy in the street and not give him the most valuable thing that I have, my time? It's because I think there's a service or an organization or a charity that's going to come and take care of that. So we've got the problem we have in Australia is these large faith-based organizations that own $3 billion worth of property and get government funding and grants aren't taking care of that guy because he's still fucking there. Yeah. And everybody to date,
what's going on in the States as well.
Everybody to date that's in that environment is part of the problem. They can, they're part of that. They're part of ensuring that guy stays on the street. They can't not be. Every policy and everything. So when we sign up to government money and funding, they dictate, how we spend it. Yeah. So the organisation that I've recently been working with don't do that. They philanthropic donations, blah. They're only, they're a small org. However, the lifting that they do is phenomenal.
Right, most definitely.
Because they they aren't dictated on how they spend the money because, you know, ultimately, when you look at prison, it's a business model that I would blueprint if I could, and I had no scruples. To get the repeat business that they do, name me another organization or company that gets that repeat. That, like, it's 70 to 80%. If you go in, this is the other thing. Prison's like a gaslighting experience, like there's no other. So the way that they twist and do all these, recidivism when you're 2 years out, and, you know, blah, 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 all those numbers and figures. If you go into prison, any prison anywhere in the world, and you say, hey, guys, just want to raise hands, let me know who's been here before. It's about 70% standard.
Yeah, most definitely.
Like that, depending on which side of the fence you're on, that's a great success or a spectacular fail.
Man.
So
And
who's
so-
buttering your bread?
Right. Yeah, true indeed. And so if someone was to be getting out of prison, let's say tomorrow, and they just happen to stumble across this video, what message would you give to them?
There's someone out there. There's someone out there that believes in you, even if you don't believe in yourself. Stay true to yourself, and just be open to that person. And what that person will represent is everything that you fucking hate.
Right.
You'll meet this person, and they will grate on you like nobody has ever fucking grated upon you.
Right.
Let them help you. Let them help you.
Mm.
Put your hand up. Take every support that you can, because you'll stumble into that person. And I speak to it, a bit with a lot of people sort of in these situations. And that's what it took for me. It was one person to believe in me and give me an opportunity when nobody else would.
And so if you had one word to describe this journey, what would that one word be and why?
Emotional.
Mm.
Because it is. It's an emotional process, and part of the reason why I used heroin and all of these sorts of things is to avoid those emotions, because I was, my dad didn't get that. My mum didn't get that. They couldn't give it to me. How can I connect? Like, as a human being, we are meaning-making creatures. We have emotions and we have feelings. It's a fact. To deny those, like, that's where I got into trouble. Unable to process and do all those sort of, regulate around the emotions. And how I would do that was with heroin. So and if you need recovery and healing and starting a healing journey looks different for everybody, an individual. So that's part of what I believe in now, is going from reform to abolition to obsolete. Is like, how do we implement a myriad of pathways and opportunities for individuals? Because what worked for me won't work for you.
Exactly.
It's a fact.
Yeah.
However, there'll be cohorts that can come together, and we don't need a rehab that's got 300 people in it. We need, a rehab or a healing center that's got 8 or 9 people in there, but dotted all through the community.
Right.
With different models and different practices and different, the value is in the difference, not the same. Because we've got that blueprint of what it looks like. If we're trying to, replace a one-size-fucks-all system with a one-size-fucks-all system,
Yeah, it's not going.
It's never going to equate.
Yeah, it's not
So
going.
we need more. That's why I'm, having cracks at the larger faith-based organisations, because they think they create this illusion with the government that they can get it all done because they're do-gooders. Look, they're the most dangerous people to us. People that want to do good.
So,
because, their concept of what works and what, oh, no, that's not going to work.
Right.
It's a good way to waste a shitload of money. I know that much.
Yeah, most definitely. They have and will continue. So what's next for you in things that you're doing?
So, yeah, I'm slowly trying to get this up and running and online. I've had issue. The people that built my website sort of fucked off.
Right.
So I've had to pick that ball up a bit myself. It's up and you can buy stuff online now.
And what is the
At
website?
Other Words. So www.otherwords with a Z.com. So yeah, you can, there's a few shirts on there at the moment. I've got to get some hoodies up because I know it's cold over there at the minute. Yeah, is it cold there?
Definitely.
Come,
It says you sold out.
Yeah, is that what it says?
Yeah.
Are they all sold out or?
Let me see. Yeah, it said you sold out.
This is the issue that I've had. Yeah. Sorry, guys, you can't get them. Too popular. Just trying.
Oh no,
just
he's
trying to create.
You ready to go? Yes, you
Yeah,
ready
yeah.
to
There's
go.
one on there I know that's like sold. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Oh yeah. Okay, I see it. Yeah. So yeah. So those are tuning in. I put the.
So yeah, So the other thing that I want to do with the business, is I want to employ people to have records. So that's part of that. So if I can get it to that stage where like, hey, and what? So the other thing that people are like, oh, not for profit charity, people can donate. I said, no. It's a business that I'm going to teach people how to do business with. I want your business. I don't want charity. The last thing I need when I get out of prison is charity.
Right.
I need opportunity and the ability to grow and develop. I don't need you to just keep catching fish and bringing them in the house, because that's the model that we have.
Yeah.
Where, those do-gooders will come in and bring all the food and they'll just keep doing. And then 6 months out of prison, they fuck off. And then it's like, oh, wait a minute, I'm going back to jail.
Right. They're going to do it and then they're just going to stop.
Stop functioning for individuals that get out. Give them the that's the sort of double-edged sword, is we need to give them the opportunity to get into the workforce. That doesn't happen at the moment because of the onerous conditions of parole, as well as, the criminal records checks.
Right.
So, removing those back. So that's another avenue that I will always work on, is the advocacy for change, systemic change, long-term systemic change. And the organisation, the Indigenous organisation that I was working for, they're decolonising the system. That's their goal, to decolonise it, which is, it's a big fucking job, but it needs to be done. It needs to be done.
Yeah. So we appreciate you coming on the Reentry Journey, sharing your story, sharing your testimony, sharing your works. Feel free to join our group, the Reentry Support Group. Post everything that you want to post, your website, information, things that you're doing. We got a lot of people in the group that looking for ways to maybe possibly help design their own reentry program. They just don't know where to start. We got a lot of people in the group that are looking for mentors as well. So feel free to join the group. We got some comments that this was a great interview. And so thanks a lot for coming on, sharing your story. Any final words?
No, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be able to meet with like-minded people. The only other thing that I'd say to people is, because I've just had a jarring experience, get out of the echo chamber. Get out of it. Listen to other people. So we don't need to preach to the choir. You're converted. I'm converted. We need to get the rich fucking whiteies. You know what I mean? We need to get the people that don't understand and can't comprehend what we're talking about, and educate them. And once we educate them, then, things will change. It's an education. I always refer to myself as ignorantly racist, because I don't know.
Right.
But when you tell me, hey, Dean, that's not appropriate, and, oh, okay, sorry, I won't do it again. If I keep doing it, obviously I am racist. However, if I don't, it's like, oh, it's an education. So how do we educate? Racism is just ignorance, essentially. Apart from like those like lunatics, which are just lunatics. But yeah, so, together we can, and division is the enemy.
And there it is.
When one of us win, we all win.
That's right.
So you don't always have to support the person that's doing something else, but don't fucking tear them down. Let them do what they're doing, because we need as many different people doing the work that we're doing.
Right. And there you have it. Another great interview on the Reentry Journey. Thanks a lot to those who tuned in and listened to this story, do you got any plans to travel to the U.S.?
They won't let me in, mate.
Right.
I'm trying. So what I'm trying to do is there's a thing called the Churchill Fellowship, which is a sponsorship for a year to do study and research globally on topics that aren't covered in Australia. So what I'm going to try and do my Churchill on, or it's an application process, so fingers crossed I get there. I want to come to the States because and the Netherlands, back to Amsterdam, hopefully. They've closed prisons, and go and speak to my old mate over there about what it was like trying to get Rikers closed and the issues and barriers that they face. Because my ultimate goal is I'd love to close a prison, just one, and not replace it with another one. Yeah?
Right. Yeah, most definitely. So again, thanks a lot for coming on as our guest. Dean
Pleasure,
Lloyd,
Cartel.
for those of you who's tuning in, it's Dean Lloyd. I'll put the website on there where you can go to. Follow him on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn.
And LinkedIn. That's probably where I spend most of my time on LinkedIn.
Okay, yeah, me too. I'm kind of transition.
Dean M. Lloyd.
And so, hold on, I think we got something else on here. So, is there any email? Is there an email address? Something that someone can reach you with?
So Dean, DEAN at other words with the Z.com.
All right, there we have it. We got the email in the comments as well. So if you want to reach out and connect with Dean, feel free to send the email over. And also, thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, Dean, for coming on, being a guest, sharing your story, and hopefully that we get a chance to hear from you some more. Hopefully you join the group, and so you can be a part of the family.
Thanks a lot, Cardell. I really appreciate the opportunity to connect with everybody out there and meeting like-minded people that are doing great work. So keep up the good work, man.
All right, thanks a lot, man. You have a great. I don't know. It's night here, so I don't know.
It's 1 o'clock in the day, afternoon.
So good afternoon.
I got another appointment. I thought, oh shit, I'm late. All good.
Yeah. So you have another
summertime here, man.
Yeah, you have
going to the beach for a swim.
Yeah,
I'll be thinking of you.
Hey, you're gonna go enjoy a whole day. I'm about to lay it down for the rest of the night.
Yeah.
So,
Get some rest. My friends.
Your day.
So,
I appreciate
it's a pleasure.
And stay in contact. Thanks for being a
sure.
guest. And let's just stay in contact with each other.
100%. Take care, eh? Safe travels.
Same to you.